All right, welcome to Dynamite. Not doing no delight. It's Dynamite. And we got a 3 hour show. Collision and Dynamite together. I am not doing any, and I repeat, any collision. No. Not if I won't go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, because I see everything as a replay later. But let me tell you this, what I saw. What I saw here was a little confusion, a little story, and a little bit of a boot slipping off someone's foot so they can win. Which isn't the first thing I've ever seen before. Not the first time I ever seen before, but it is something that has been done before. So I will say this. The show wasn't 100% bad. It wasn't. The matches were generally good. We got a somewhat of a swerve at the end because of the boots. And that's pretty much it. And then we got a little bit of confusion. This is the thing that gets me. After the women's matches, I believe it was women's tag match was over, and I'll talk about that in a minute. It was Excalibur, I believe, that stated that the next set of matches that's coming up is going to have a stipulation attached to it. What? We're talking about the women's tag tournament. If I'm remembering correctly. Because I am remembering correctly. It's not the Casino Battle Royal for the men, who's going to be the first not Continental Champion, which they're having a Continental Classic when there's not supposed to be a Continental Classic title anymore. It's the National Championship, the AEW National Heavyweight Championship. And I know it's not Heavyweight Champion, but I want to say it, the Heavyweight Championship. It's a National Championship. But you are literally giving these women a stipulation in their tag tournament, which makes no sense. Why are you putting a stipulation in a tag tournament when you're trying to make it legitimate? Explain that to me. Guys, someone explain it. Why? Why do you have to do that? And I'm sure people are going to say, dude, this is to make sure people don't get hurt. Like what might happen with Mia Shikawa and Toni Storm. Or maybe Athena and Mercedes. Oh, I forgot, they're not part of it anymore. That would make sense with them. It would make sense. Because who are you actually going to be pushing? Who? If it's not Mina Shikawa, if it's not Toni Storm, you would think Mercedes Moné and Athena. No, they're gone already. Then who's left? Willow and Harley Cameron? It's going to get the stipulation to make sure if they do lose, it's not going to hurt them? Really? Let's move on. First match for the Casino Battle Royal. To have the number one spot. Not Battle Royal Summer. This is where I'm getting a little confused. You would think this would be a Battle Royal. And that the number one spot would be like that. But it's a gauntlet. And they're doing the first match for the gauntlet. Now, you would say, dude, that's normal, isn't it? Yeah. But wouldn't it be good to have a battle royal to make that more legitimate? You throw everybody in the ring and give it to them that way. Not saying this is bad, but wouldn't you? We got Bobby Lashley versus Ricochet. Who do you think was going to win? Not because Ricochet is smaller, but what's been going on between the Demand and the Hurt Syndicate? Do you actually believe? Did you actually believe that Ricochet was going to win here? Not 1 second. And yes, he did a decent job when it came to healing it up and trying to piss people off. It was fine. But did you honestly believe Bobby Lashley was going to lose? No. Wasn't going to happen. And I knew it wasn't going to happen. I had no real interest in the match. Doesn't mean it wasn't a bad match. It was a good match between Ricochet and Bobby Lashley was. And seeing that the Demand had to be used to try and cover for most of Ricochet is not too surprising. When it was an actual straight match, Ricochet's a great wrestler. Bobby's a good wrestler. There's no problem. Bobby won, not surprised. Moving on. Next match. Speedball Mike Bailey versus a Shelton Benjamin for the number 2 spot. Now, also, people would say, dude, why are you getting upset? This isn't something that has been done before in the gauntlet. Yes, that's true. That is true. But due to the fact you're putting Shelton up against Bobby, wouldn't it have been better to have Speedball? Or better yet, not have a Shelton be near the beginning. This is what made no freaking sense to me personally. You had a good match. I'm not saying you didn't. You had a good match between Speedball. You had a really good pairing up with Shelton Benjamin. They got good chemistry together. They actually did pretty well. In the end, you legitimately let. I know I'm jumping around, but you legitimately left. Not. How can I explain this? If you're part of a faction, you don't stick them together immediately. You don't. This is what Tony did. He just stuck Shelton Benjamin with Bobby Lashley at the very opening of the Casino Gauntlet match. I would have liked to see Shelton be the last person to join the Casino Gauntlet match. Well, the Battle Royal. Now I'm saying Gauntlet Battle Royal. You know, when I get angry, I botch. And I'm angry about this. This made no sense to have Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley to be the first two in the Gauntlet match. It makes no sense. It would have been better if Bobby was last or Shelton was last. Why would you stick them both together at the same time? It would have been better that Speedball Mike Bailey went up against Ricochet. And it would have been better that way. At least then it would have been Speedball who would be number 2 in the gauntlet, or Ricochet. No, you got rid of Ricochet, you got rid of Speedball, and now you're putting two people who should not be together in the very opening of a gauntlet match. And I botched so much saying it was a battle royal because it legitimately pissed me off. It's stupid. It is stupid to pair them together before anything. And you're going to say, you don't think they're not going to work together? They're not going to. This is Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley. They're not going to do that. Both of them are going to go up against each other to see who's best. And instead of leaving it near the end or the middle of the gauntlet, you stick them together immediately because you just want to get some type of, and I said this in the last video for Dynamite, Blood and Guts. Short-term gain. Long-term loss. Moving on. The actual second that came on the show was a trios match. You got Sky Flight, where you have Scorpio Sky with Dante and what was it? Dante and I forgot his brother's name. Darius. There you go. Tell me if I'm wrong, but Darius looks like he's gotten a lot more bigger. And I'm not talking here. I'm talking about on his stomach. He looks like he's gained more weight. And since he was a great high flyer, when I watched the match, he was able to fly around a bit, but he looks like he's lost that. He's lost most of the type of flying he's done. Now, I know he was in a car accident at one point, and he was messed up, and that could still be messing with him. But he doesn't look like a high flyer anymore. He's an okay wrestler, no problem, but he doesn't feel like a high flyer. And he's with Scorpio Sky, who's not a high flyer either. He's more of the muscle of the entire group. And then you put them against the Bucks and Josh Alexander. And this isn't about Skyflight. This was about who is really benefiting here. And what I mean by that, is it the Don Callis family benefiting by getting the Bucks? Or is it going to be, this is where it gets interesting. Don wants the Bucks. The Bucks are not sure what to do right now because as it stands, they're already showing signs they want to start flipping to face again. But what does this really give us when it comes to Kenny? Remember, Kenny's working with the Jurassic Express. He came out with a chair, whooped everybody's ass, but then got his ass whooped, got his ankle twisted up, and then Jurassic Express comes out. The problem here is this. You're going to have a match for $1 million at Full Gear. And the problem I have is this. Who's benefiting from this? Are you really going to make sure that Jurassic Express is going to get over here along with the Bucks? Or is it really about Kenny getting over more? To rejoin the Bucks and make the lead again? Or is this about Don Callis trying to make it that he has the most heelish faction? But then, here's the thing. There's no factions that are as strong as his anyway. He has so many people in it that is heavily diminished. I'll say that again. His faction is so prolific with so many people. When it used to be dominant, it has now been diminished because he has so many people in it. There's no way to get everyone over. The most people that are over, Okada, you got Kateska, and you got Kyle O'Reilly. Everyone else is nothing. Nothing. And yes, we did get that segment in the back with Kyle and Mark Briscoe setting up to remind us that at Full Gear, it's going to be for the TNT title. If Mark loses, he joins the Don Callis family. And they're trying to hype that up. But with this situation with the Don Callis family, with so many members, it's heavily diminished. It would have been better if you only had Kyle Fletcher. Oh, I hope I didn't say Kyle O'Reilly. I'm getting frustrated with this, legitimately. It is confusing to try and figure out if they're really making this work. Guys, I'm not like JD. I'm not like Alex. I'm not against either one of them. And I know Alex doesn't really do reviews of Dynamite anymore. It's just JD and Jesse and the Solid Monster and a few others, of course. But I'm honest here that I'm not trying to bash AEW. I'm not. I'm not saying they're bashing it and enjoying it. But technically, you know JD enjoys bashing Dynamite even though he still loves it. But I'm like, what are we legitimately getting here with the Don Callis family? You have so many people in it, and they're basically not getting over. They're just basic extras, and they should be getting over. And you only have 3 people that look like they should be over. And now you got 2 of those 3 people that are ready to fight one another. But when will this happen? Will it happen in Revolution? It seems like it should, unless it's going to happen in World's End. And either the Undisputed title, which is supposedly now still the International and the Continental title, because they're going to do the Continental Classic, which is stupid. It should be gone because the titles don't exist anymore. It's just a big cluster. And the Don Callis family doesn't feel as important as it should. I'm just saying, moving on. We're moving on now to the match that I'm like, okay, I can say this. Why? Is there no anger? Any dissension? Any, like, what was going on here? No, it's the same old thing. The Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli, and John should be out of the Death Riders already, and he's not. He just went up against Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong, and he won the match. He pretty much, it was Moxley who choked out Orange. He used a bulldog choke. I'm botching here. You got to see my point of view here. Jon Moxley has run his course, guys. Legitimately, he's done. He's finished. The person that should become the new Death Rider leader should be Pac, or the one that's been there the most and makes the best sense, Claudio Castagnoli. It should be Claudio who's now the Death Rider leader, but he's not. He's not getting frustrated at Mark. He's not getting frustrated with Danny Garcia. He's not getting frustrated with Wheeler Yuta. He's not getting frustrated at Pac. He's not getting frustrated at Marina Shafir. He's not doing anything but just flat out wrestling, not showing any type of frustration. And then when they should have lost here, this should make it important that, guess what? John can't get it done anymore. He constantly keeps losing. But no, when it's time for him to win in the clutch, he can't get it done. So instead of letting him lose here to make it even more apparent that the Death Riders need to change, he beats Orange by making him pass out. And Claudio gets nothing. We get nothing. Nothing has changed. This is a waste of time for Claudio, for Pac, for Wheeler Yuta, for Danny Garcia, and Marina Shafir. The one that's benefiting the most here is John. And even then he's not benefiting because John has been on TV for so long. So incredibly long. It is bad. It is wrong. Look, I want to say this. A few days ago, I was looking to see if there was other shows I could review, and I saw The File. I believe it's called The File. And I know that Killer Cross was on it. But I checked to see who was there. The advertisement showed Jon Moxley. So I saw him. Jon Moxley was on the show. And he was so over with those fans, which is great. But they were the File fans. Yes, they could also be AEW fans, but they were the File fans. If I'm pronouncing it correctly. Defy, sorry. I want to see John go away. He can go on the indies for a while, but I would rather see him take a break and not do anything. Nothing. For months. Stay away, take a break with his wife, take a break with his daughter, just stay away from TV for a while, and then come back. That's what I thought would be the best for him. But no, we're not getting that. He's still wrestling. He's still the Death Rider leader. And instead of making it clear that the Death Riders need to change, they're not doing it because he just beat Orange Cassidy with a Bulldog choke, and that's it. Moving on. The first round, another first round, for the AEW Women's Tag Tournament. We got Windsor and Rio versus the Timeless, Ladybugs? I believe that's what they're calling themselves, Mia Shirakawa and Toni Storm. I didn't expect Windsor to be teamed up with Rio. I guess they don't want to make it stereotypical because they could have teamed up Windsor with Hayter. They didn't do that. I will give them that. Queen Aminala couldn't wrestle and Hayter just lost her partner. Fine, that's okay. When it came to Megan Bayne, Penelope Forbes injured, so that's why they stuck Marina Shafir with her. And I don't buy Marina Shafir as a badass because they've done nothing with her. Now, I want to make this clear. What she did in Blood and Guts was a good job. I will not take that from her. But she's been booked like a bitch. She's done nothing. This is not against her. This is about the booking they've been doing with the women. And then I see this. I didn't feel Rio was even a partner to a Windsor. Now, when Mina and Tony came out, I could feel that they're partners because they have chemistry together. They got charisma together. And I'm not surprised they won here. They're going to move forward. But what I said earlier about the announcement that the next tag tournament match is going to be a stipulation match for the semifinals. Whoever wins that match gets to pick a stipulation for the semifinal match. Why? Why would you have your women have a next round match, and whoever wins it gets a stipulation for the next match, which doesn't make any sense? It's hard enough to get these women, to get them over, where you barely do any in-ring segments with them, any backstage segments with them, any interviews with them. You almost do none. Yeah, you had something with Willow and Harley Cameron, yeah. And seeing Harley's tits all the way here, which, let's be clear, she got a great set of tits. Fake or real, I don't care. She's a damn good looking woman with a great set of tits. And let's make it clear, the Willow Nightmare, she is gorgeous. She's a gorgeous looking woman in the face. She has a good looking body. That teaming them together is a wise thing to do. But they're the only one that's getting any traction when it comes to getting interviews. I want to see Tony and Mina talk. I want to see Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir talk. I want to see the Sisters of Sin talk. Nothing. I don't feel anything for these women, not because I think they're bad wrestlers, but they haven't given me a reason. fuck? Final match. Let me say this. Did I hate the Shibata and Page match? No. It's understandable you're putting him through the entire ops. Yes. But did I care that this is all started? Excuse me. This is all started about Joe getting handed his title inappropriately. Because it's not about him feeling frustrated that he has not been champ in a while. Nope, they didn't book him that way. They didn't. So when it comes to this, I don't feel anything for Joe. I don't feel anything for Paige. Paige and Joe do not feel important to me. And they should feel important. But they don't. How is that possible? How? Is it possible that less than a few months ago, Paige winning that damn title, everyone knew he should have won it months ago, and before he even won it. And if it wasn't Paige, it was Adam Copeland. And if it wasn't Adam Copeland, it was someone else that should have won the damn title. But they booked it to be him. And everyone loved it. And now, after the time he finally won, he feels irrelevant. How? How do you make someone that was so over and was being popped for irrelevant? This match didn't matter. In a few days, we're going to be having Joe versus Hangman Page for the AEW Championship. But I feel nothing. Look, guys, I say this again. The show wasn't bad. Decisions, I don't know, some decisions made no sense. Others were perfectly fine. The matches were all right. They even showed Bob Cribble. I believe it's Crib. Respect. I never heard him. I never heard Bob Cribb, or at least Bob. He died at the age of 95. He was one of the more OG type of announcers, even before Tony Schiavone, or even maybe Jim Ross, for that matter. He might have even been before Jim Ross, back in the early 80s. I think he was. But the point here is, you know, they showed him respect. I don't know him, but knowing that he was an announcer, knowing that they used to really make the announcers mean something back in the 60s, 70s, even the early to late 80s, I can respect that. Do I respect the feud between Hangman Page and Samoa Joe? No. There's nothing there. There is no heat there. And at this point, you know who's the most over that I've seen? That when they see him, they cheer their asses off, not as a faction, but as an individual, who is the most hottest for everyone there. And it's not Darby Allin. Nope. It's not Bobby Lashley, even though both of them being cheered along with Shelton. Guess who it is? Eddie Kingston. Every time he shows up, people are so loud for him. He's the loudest person there. Eddie, who had not been seen for more than a year, having his injury, finally comes back. He's working with Hook. People love Eddie. People adore Eddie. Yeah, I love Eddie myself. I do. I think he's one of the best talkers with the best personality. The Mad King is the most best. But I'm not saying this because I love Eddie. If you watch any time when he's on Dynamite, compare him to Darby. Compare him to Hangman Page. Compare him to the Hurt Syndicate's separate Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley, MVP. They all get cheered. But you cannot tell me that Eddie doesn't get cheered the loudest. And I'm not saying it because I love Eddie. I'm saying it because it's obvious. Even Kenny doesn't get as cheered as loud as Eddie Kingston. Why? You know why? Character building. Eddie proved himself over 2 years to be one of the most compelling characters in the company. And when he won the Continental Classic, it showed how much people loved him. Unfortunately, he got injured and he was done. He had to leave. But he's back. And he's still being cheered as loud as Hangman Page. He should not be cheered as much as Hangman. He shouldn't. But he is. And that shows you how bad that the booking has been. That they diminish Hangman, who was here, who easily would have outstripped and did outstrip Eddie when he was gone. Hangman was so over. He's that. And he shouldn't be. But this is just me. You guys tell me below. I don't even know what I'm going to call this video. Maybe I'll use that as my title. I don't know what to call this. I think that's it. Peace.